David Hallal is co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Elevate Bio, a cell and gene therapy company accelerating access to technologies and expertise to change the future of medicine. David is also chairman of the board of directors for Scholar Rock, Itios, and Allovir. Mr. Hallal is a 30-year veteran in the biopharmaceutical industry with expertise in early-stage company building as well as operating large multinational biotech companies. He's also an advisor at MPM Capital. Previously, David spent more than a decade at Alexion Pharmaceuticals, an S&P 500 company, as Chief Commercial Officer, Chief Operation Officer, and then finally as Chief Executive Officer. Prior to Alexion, he had held leadership positions at biopharmaceutical companies including Amgen and Biogen. David currently serves on the UNH Foundation board, and his motivation to join that board was motivated by the ambitious strategic plan that President Dean had laid out for the future of university. David is particularly interested in the steps UNH is taking to advance itself in biomedical research and education of both undergraduate and graduate students. David was also the president of the Sigma Beta fraternity here on campus, and I know you greatly enjoyed your quick visit you had earlier today. David has had an incredible career and made an indelible contribution for the biopharmaceutical industry and society at large, and congratulations.
Thanks very much, Josh. Well, now that I know President Dean is retiring, I guess I'm off the board. Is that the no. It is really an honor to be here, Bob, with you and Andy and the other inductees. It's just a lot of fun earlier today to be with the students. I think we walked away so inspired about what this community at UNH is doing to change the world every day by attracting and educating the future of our country and our planet. It was just a wonderful roundtable. I have to say that UNH is all around me. I mean, it was 35 years ago that this was my home, and it's still remarkable to me that 4 years of your life can connect you in so many ways for the remainder of your life. And that's precisely what happened here at UNH. When I say I wake up every morning thinking UNH, I go to bed every night thinking UNH, it's because my wife is also a Wildcat, and we celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary this past Tuesday on October 10th. Terry Izzo at the time, now Terry Hallal. If nothing else, UNH has changed my life for the better because she's my best friend. She is a greater risk taker than me. She is really trusted in the decisions that I have made over the course of my career. And when many women or men wouldn't have traveled around the country like she did, taking job after job, we had our 3 boys in 3 different time zones over a 5-year period of time, and then finally returned to New England in 2002. And that was really all driven by the courage and the risk-taking appetite of my wife, Terry. She can't be here. She's actually taking care of her parents right now in Florida, but she's certainly here in spirit. And I also want to acknowledge my parents. So I grew up in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and my parents are my heroes. I wanted to go to college in either Boston or Rhode Island. That is the only place that I had applied to school. But my mother had convinced me of this really neat school in a beautiful town in Durham, New Hampshire, and she encouraged me to take a look at UNH. So we came up on a fall day, and it wasn't a 5-star day like today was. It was a bit rainy and cloudy. So I was sort of 50-50 and still was committed to Boston or Rhode Island. But on the last day where I had to make a decision, my mother, who is a force of nature, when it was time to sign on the dotted line, made sure that I signed up to come to UNH, and the rest was history. Meeting my wife, Terry, having a remarkable 4 years here, and making some of the most impactful professional and personal relationships that I will have in my life. As far as my dad, who passed just a few years ago at the age of 90, Mom, by the way, just celebrated her 88th last month and is so healthy and so vibrant. But Dad passed at 90. When I think about, the East Center, he was an entrepreneur in his own right. He didn't go to college. He ran a barbershop for more than 50 years. He employed one person. Never took home really more than $30,000, $40,000 a year. And yet, really powered myself, my sister, and my brother to accomplish a lot of really wonderful things. So, as I think about UNH, I came up here and I told President Dean this when I joined the board. What I think is remarkable about UNH is that not only are we intelligent and kind and thoughtful, but we are competitive, we are scrappy, we are grinders, we get into the trenches, we do what most other folks are unwilling to do, get our hands dirty. So when I came to UNH, I had a bunch of different jobs. One of which was I joined the UNH campus police, largely to enforce traffic and parking regulations. And as I told the students earlier, one of the reasons why I did it is I wanted to make a little bit of extra money. I was taking out student loans. The other is I really thought the jacket was cool. And in fact, I wore the jacket one Halloween party on campus. I also worked for the city of Dover in the Parks and Recs department and drove around pickup trucks and took care of a lot of the facilities out in Dover. And then an iconic brand that was founded here back in the day at UNH in 1986, the Co-ed Naked Lacrosse t-shirt. Yeah, I went door to door at so many campuses selling those t-shirts. And I told the students this. It was a blast all throughout New England. I also spent a night in jail because on one campus, Assumption College in Worcester, we did not have a license to sell Assumption College wear. And because, of course, we customized them. So I did spend one night in jail in the Worcester County Jail. But that is an iconic brand. You can still find that website online. And then finally, as I think Josh noted, I had a whopping $35 a week salary to be the president of Sigma Beta. And it was a sensational experience. As I told the kids here, it was kind of like running a business. You had to think about, how do we fund all of this? How do we attract investors, i.e. supportive alumni? How do we think about future and succession planning, i.e. a rush program and a pledge program? Because it's the most accelerated company you can imagine. It's 4 years and you're out. So you better have a really good renewable replenishment program to continue to bring in wonderful folks who can keep driving the organization forward. So that's my time at UNH, and it's just fantastic being here. Since leaving UNH, I have dedicated 3.5 decades now to the life sciences space, as Josh noted. I started out in a big pharmaceutical company from the age of 21 to 24. And then I found my way into this new industry known as biotechnology in 1992. I was the youngest person in the sales and marketing group at Amgen at the age of 25. Nobody knew what Amgen is. Today, it's a couple of $100 billion company, and it is making dozens of life-transforming therapies for patients around the world. I spent 11 years there, and that's where Terry had the courage to move with me every other year, seemingly, and as I noted, having 3 boys over 5 years in 3 different time zones. When it was time to go back to Southern California, Thousand Oaks, namely where Amgen was, my wife looked at me, and after she had followed me all of these places, she said, success for us is not raising our kids 3,000 miles away from home. The biotech industry looks pretty robust in Cambridge as well. why don't we go back to Boston as opposed to make that commitment to stay in California? And we came back, and we've been in the Boston area since 2002. And since then, I've spent time with a few other companies, as Josh noted. Most notably, what I'm doing today, and I would just highlight that at Amgen, we kind of entered that world of recombinant DNA technology. It was like unheard of that you could actually make these injectables and large molecules that could more exclusively and exquisitely target diseases that otherwise were left untreated. I started Elevate Bio because I think we're entering another different stage, and that is the stage of genomic medicine, where living cells can fight cancer, infectious diseases, and any number of rare genetic disorders. Gene editing will change the world. Who here read Walter Isaacson's book, Codebreaker, on Jennifer Doudna? So CRISPR technology, right? The basis of gene editing was just founded 10 years ago, and now it's been proven to work in clinical trials. What Walter Isaacson wrote in that book is the balance of power in the last 100 years in this country, in the world, has really changed on three inventions: the atom, nuclear power; the bit, technology; and the gene. And so we founded Elevate Bio to really start an entire ecosystem to try to develop these genetic medicines better, faster, and cheaper than they otherwise could, because there's too many folks who are living with, suffering, and eventually dying from devastating disorders. You know what the worst disease is? It's either the one that you have, or your loved ones have, or your friends have. There's just too many diseases without effective treatments. And that's what we're trying to do in the world of genomic medicines and gene editing. And that really sort of leads me then into the problem and then how UNH can serve. And Josh, if it's okay, I know I'm a bit over. There were a couple that were just on my mind, and I'll be very brief. The first is I've spent a lot of time with President Dean. I've spent a lot of time. I'm actually a COLA grad. I'm really not from the life sciences group here. Let's go COLA. I also have a minor in business, so I spent a lot of time at WSBE back in the day. But look, we have actually built a remarkable biomedical capability here at UNH. It's incredible. The research dollars flowing in are phenomenal. And what I'm asking the university to do is really dedicate themselves to the same area of focus that I have started here at Elevate Bio. Children and adults suffering from devastating and life-threatening diseases, and really make sure that we continue to do two things: attract the research funding, develop the IP and know-how, and train our the next leaders, the workforce, to make a difference in the world. We are only scratching the surface. We are in the earliest days of the genomic medicine revolution, and this is our time, and this can be UNH's time. But in addition to the great work in the biomedical group here at UNH, it doesn't really help anybody unless you commercialize and monetize what you're doing. So I've seen so many patents on plaques around here at UNH, but I think we got to integrate it into the e-center and think about how do we bring this great innovation that's being developed here at UNH and bring it to folks who can really benefit from it. And that's where I think UNH can play a real role in becoming a dominant force in creating innovation and finding a way to bring it to the marketplace. Now, two other problems that I just find outside of the world that hit so close to home with me. The first is this. This didn't actually exist when I was here, okay? In fact, when I was a post-grad, a big innovation was voicemail. If you wanted to speak to somebody after work, you had to call them. Voicemail and then email became a large innovation. So here, the power of social media and these devices is incredible. And we are going to harness this power, and we already are, to make the world a better place. But I'm also finding that we're losing out on the opportunity to engage with one another personally. Deep engagement, one-on-one, and figuring out how to be better. conflict is much easier. Folks kind of have this bravery when it comes to social media, and we create a lot of conflict with it. And the thing I would ask UNH to consider is how within the curriculum can we make our students better than what we see happening in society by folks relying too much on some of this social media technology and not as much on the interpersonal relationships. And then the third I would say is, as we've seen in the last week, it's just continues to be horrifying what's happening in the world. The world is really teetering in a way in which I haven't seen, really in the last, 35 years. When I was here as a student, we were seeing actually the end of the Cold War. We were seeing the Berlin Wall come down, and we were seeing the beginning of globalization, which has led to remarkable sort of economic growth globally and global superpowers working together. And obviously now we see turmoil in the Mideast, in Central and Eastern Europe with Russia and Ukraine, and obviously the enormous threat between China and Taiwan. And, it's often daily we're seeing threats out of North Korea. And I'm heartened by the fact that we still live in a great country. We have plenty of problems, but we live in a great country. And it is the U.S. that actually creates some equilibrium in the world. That's really, really important for us. By the way, I'm an independent. I always have been. I always vote for the person, not the party. And I vote on both sides of the ticket. But obviously, if that equilibrium is critical for us, we know that every 4 years, the primaries come through New Hampshire pretty early. New Hampshire gets a chance to put a stamp, right, and amplify what's going on in the world. And we need the best leadership that we can possibly have in this country. And right now, our government's a little dysfunctional. So the only other thing I would say is, given what's at stake here in the world, and UNH always gets a shot at shining a light on all the candidates that we have to choose from on both sides of the aisle. Just don't, make the most of that opportunity, as we always do, come early next year, to just let the public know what all the options are, because I think this will be another critical one for us to make sure that the U.S. stays strong. We're dedicated to goodness, kindness, and democracy, and we can continue to keep equilibrium in the world. Josh, thank you very much. President Dean, my fellow inductees, thank you.